Imagine pressing record, expecting views and income, only to never live long enough to see the upload. In this episode, we're going to see YouTubers who push safety limits for attention and revenue until those limits pushed back. These are the creators who died while the camera never stopped watching. It was September 14, 2016, on a wide industrial road in Torrance, California. Delivery trucks moved steadily through the morning air. The pavement was dry and quiet. Heat built quietly inside one worn tire, unseen and ignored, turning a normal jog into a lesson in motion, force, and sudden failure. Lily Park was a 24-year-old marketing assistant at a small digital advertising office in El Segundo, who filmed lifestyle videos before her early morning shifts. Her channel focused on simple routines, jogging, planning, and productivity, and usually drew a few thousand views. The income was modest, but steady enough to help cover rent. Over 18 months, she built a small, loyal audience that preferred her calm, everyday approach. Running was both habit and content, and she followed the same 3-mile route 5 mornings a week along a wide industrial road used by delivery trucks and early commuters. Lily ran on the paved shoulder, a little over 3 feet from the nearest traffic lane. She wore reflective clothing and running shoes with high visibility accents, but there were no barriers separating her from traffic. She relied on the shoulder for space and familiarity with the route for safety. She carried a small handheld camera on a stabilizer, occasionally lifting it to speak directly to viewers while jogging. She started her run just before 5:50 a.m. under clear skies. The temperature sat in the low 60s, cool enough for a steady pace. Traffic moved between 40 and 45 miles per hour, matching posted limits. Her footage showed passing vehicles, warehouse lights turning on, and the quiet rhythm of an early workday beginning. About 5 minutes into the run, a medium-duty box truck approached from the opposite direction. It was moving at a steady speed, no swerving, no signs of trouble, blending into normal morning traffic. Lily continued jogging along the shoulder, holding her camera at chest height and talking through her plans for the day, what she needed to finish at work, what she'd film later that evening. Her pace was relaxed and consistent. What she couldn't see was the truck's left rear tire. It had been running well below the recommended air pressure for the weight it was carrying. Underinflated tires flex too much as they roll, especially under load. That constant bending builds heat inside the rubber, slowly breaking down the bond between the tread and the steel belts beneath it. Maintenance records later showed the truck had missed a scheduled inspection, leaving the problem unnoticed during routine operation. As the truck passed Lily, nothing sounded wrong. Seconds later, the weakened tire failed without warning. A large section of tread, more than 30 pounds of thick rubber, peeled away at speed. It slammed into the road, bounced hard, then skipped sideways across the lane. The tread hit the curb at an angle and launched upward, still spinning. Lily began to turn toward the noise. She didn't have time to move. The airborne tread struck her high in the chest and shoulder with crushing force, knocking her off her feet instantly and slamming her onto the pavement before she could react. The debris continued rolling several more yards before collapsing onto its steel framework near the curb. Nearby workers and drivers saw Lily fall and rushed to call for help. Emergency responders arrived within minutes, followed by traffic investigators who closed the road to document the scene and recover debris. The medical examiner later determined Lily died from severe blunt force trauma to the torso. The force of the impact caused multiple rib fractures and catastrophic internal injuries, leading to immediate loss of consciousness. Death was ruled accidental. Investigators traced the tire back to the commercial vehicle using manufacturer markings embedded in the tread. The operating company was cited for safety violations related to missed inspections and improper tire maintenance. Fines were issued, and the company was required to revise its maintenance procedures. Lily's final video was never uploaded. The unfinished footage remained as evidence, showing a normal morning routine interrupted without warning, an ordinary run filmed for a small audience, ending in seconds. The investigation traced Lily's death back to a mechanical failure that had been quietly building for weeks. But not every fatal video begins with faulty equipment. Sometimes, the danger is already inside the structure itself, and the camera is the only thing that enters first. It was April 17, 2016, inside an abandoned office tower in downtown Detroit. Rainwater had soaked the building for years, leaving floors soft, dark, and hollow. Paint peeled, tiles shifted underfoot, and every step sounded wrong. What looked solid no longer was, and the height below went unnoticed. Albert Chen was a 23-year-old civil engineering student who worked overnight as a parking garage attendant to afford tuition and rent. On weekends, he explored abandoned buildings, filming decaying interiors for a small YouTube channel that averaged around 2,000 views. The modest ad revenue helped pay for textbooks and basic filming gear. Most sites he entered were early 1900s office towers built with reinforced concrete floors over steel decking. Years of water intrusion from leaks and broken windows often weakened these slabs internally. Although Albert understood structural risks academically, he relied on visual checks and foot tapping, methods unable to detect hidden corrosion. On April 17, 2016, Albert entered a 52-story office tower that had been vacant for several years. Heavy rain earlier that week had worsened interior damage, making the site appealing for filming. He needed footage for a scheduled upload and entered through a service door that had been forced open long before. He began filming immediately. Witnesses later said he entered the stairwell quickly, taking the steps two at a time, moving with urgency rather than caution. As he climbed, his voice carried clearly through the stairwell. He pointed out dark stains running down the walls, ceiling panels that sagged or bowed, and loose debris scattered across several landings. The higher he went, the more obvious the damage became. By the mid-40s, tiles were cracked and uneven, and the concrete beneath showed dark patches from long-term moisture exposure. Several witnesses said he slowed briefly, shifting his weight as if testing the surface, and remarked that the floor felt soft under his shoes. He paused near a landing, then continued toward a corner office area where large windows provided natural light and better visibility. Albert stepped onto a tiled section beside a utility opening that appeared intact from above. The tile did not crack. Instead, the weakened concrete slab beneath it, eroded over years by water seeping along the opening's edge, gave way all at once. There was no sound of cracking beforehand and no visible warning. The floor collapsed beneath his forward step, and he dropped straight through the opening without time to react. Albert fell straight down into a vertical mechanical shaft, roughly 3 feet by 4 feet, designed to carry pipes and electrical conduit between floors. There were no guardrails or barriers at the opening. As he dropped, his body struck steel cross-bracing and concrete ledges at irregular intervals. Each impact twisted him sideways, slamming limbs and torso against hard surfaces. The collisions accelerated his descent, preventing any controlled movement and causing severe injuries before he reached the bottom of the shaft. He hit the reinforced concrete basement floor after falling more than 40 stories. A construction worker in a nearby building heard the impact at 3:49 p.m., describing it as a single heavy sound. Emergency services were called minutes later, but crews required additional time to locate and access the sealed basement where Albert had landed. Investigators determined the cause of death was massive blunt force trauma from a multi-level fall. Injuries included severe fractures to the skull, spine, ribs, pelvis, and long bones, along with fatal internal organ damage. Death was determined to be immediate due to catastrophic brain and cardiovascular injury. There was no evidence of survival after the initial impacts. After the incident, anonymized details of the case were later referenced in engineering classes discussing moisture-related concrete failure and slab edge collapse. Albert's family removed his YouTube channel within 48 hours. His final video was never uploaded. The last recorded file remained evidence, ending mid-sentence, still focused on the floor that failed beneath him. Marcus documented decay caused by years of neglect, assuming the danger was visible enough to manage. But some environments don't show their failure until the ground gives way. In Yellowstone, one creator would learn that nature doesn't offer second warnings. It was August 3, 2017, deep in a quiet thermal basin in Yellowstone. Steam drifted low over pale ground that looked solid, but wasn't. The air smelled sharp and wet, and the earth hissed softly beneath the surface. Away from boardwalks and crowds, the ground waited for weight it couldn't hold. Emma Rodriguez was a 19-year-old environmental studies student at a public university in Montana who made quiet, instructional wilderness survival videos for a small YouTube audience of about 800 subscribers. After 3 summers as a camp counselor teaching basic outdoor skills, she believed her experience prepared her to film solo trips. She carried standard day hiking gear and filmed with a handheld waterproof action camera, but had no formal wilderness medical training or experience with geothermal hazards. Thermal areas form when underground hot water reaches the surface, creating springs hot enough to cause severe injury. While the water is visibly dangerous, the ground around it can be just as unstable, with thin mineral crusts that can collapse without warning. Emma understood the risk of falling into a spring, but underestimated how fragile the surrounding ground could be. She planned a survival-style video on water purification and shelter building in a remote Yellowstone thermal basin. Despite park advisories and posted warnings, she left the boardwalk to avoid crowds and make the video feel more authentic, walking deep into a restricted area. At around 2 p.m., witnesses saw Emma pause near a hot spring roughly 8 feet across. Steam rose steadily from the opening, thickening and thinning with the breeze, a clear sign of extreme heat below. She moved cautiously around the edge, stopping several times to reposition and check her footing. Each step was slow and deliberate, the mineral-coated ground appearing dry and solid, despite the vapor escaping through small cracks. She stepped forward, then eased back, lightly pressing the surface with her shoe to test its firmness. Witnesses later reported hearing a faint cracking sound, followed by a short pause as she shifted her balance. She adjusted her footing once more. At approximately 2:14 p.m., the ground beneath her left foot failed completely. The thin mineral crust, later measured at under 2 inches thick, collapsed instantly, offering no resistance before giving way. Her leg and hip dropped into the spring while her upper body stayed above ground, wrenching her sideways and pinning her at the edge. Steam surged upward, rapidly thickening around her. The heat and superheated vapor overwhelmed her almost immediately. As she struggled, the surrounding crust continued to break apart, preventing her from pulling free before she was overcome. A family hiking on a maintained trail nearby heard shouting at approximately 2:16 p.m. and saw a sudden increase in steam rising from the basin. They did not move closer, recognizing the ground was unstable. They alert park emergency services and report a suspected thermal accident. Responders arrived around 3:35 p.m., delayed by distance, terrain, and the need for specialized equipment to approach the area safely. After stabilizing the surrounding ground, recovery teams reached the basin and confirmed that Emma had died at the scene. The county medical examiner ruled the cause of death as severe thermal injury with respiratory failure from inhaling superheated steam. Water temperatures measured approximately 186 degrees Fahrenheit, high enough to cause rapid loss of consciousness and fatal injuries within minutes. Emma's action camera was recovered near the spring's edge. The casing was heat damaged, but the memory card remained intact. The final recording confirmed she was actively filming at the time of the collapse. The footage was secured as evidence and never released publicly. After the incident, park officials reinforced barriers in the area and updated safety briefings for backcountry visitors. Emma's case was later used in ranger training programs to emphasize that in thermal areas, the ground can be just as deadly as the water beneath it. We've got more stories coming up, so subscribe if you want to understand how online content creation can cross into real-world danger. It was November 12th, 2015, 30 miles off the coast near Cairns, Australia. The water was clear, warm, and busy with moving schools of fish. This outer reef zone was active that morning, drawing larger predators in close. It was the kind of place where timing quietly decides what happens next. Sophia Kim was a 28-year-old freelance graphic designer from Brisbane who filmed underwater travel content during gaps between design contracts. Her videos were calm and scenic, focused on coral reefs, marine life, and the quiet isolation of solo dives. She wasn't famous. Most of her uploads reached a few thousand views, enough to bring in modest ad revenue and keep her channel growing slowly. Diving gave her flexible content and something she could control between client jobs. 6 months earlier, Sophia had completed basic freediving certification and was comfortable diving to about 40 feet under supervision. She planned a solo November outer reef dive with basic gear and no shark deterrent or in-water partner. Local operators had reported increased shark activity due to baitfish spawning, but with no official closures, Sophia proceeded, believing calm movement and short dives would limit risk. She entered the water at 10:30 a.m. with the sun high enough to penetrate deep into the water. Visibility exceeded 100 feet, allowing clear views in every direction. The water temperature held near 79 degrees Fahrenheit. From the boat above, the ocean looked calm, with only light ripples. As she descended past 40 feet, a large school of baitfish appeared below her, packed tightly together and moving in sudden coordinated bursts. Their behavior shifted from loose drifting to rapid compression, forming dense, twisting shapes that pulsed and scattered without warning. Patterns commonly seen when a larger predator moves nearby. Moments later, a bull shark rose from deeper water, emerging out of the darker blue below. It moved slowly and directly, without circling or displaying hesitation, an approach consistent with investigative behavior rather than a warning pass. Witnesses on the boat estimated it at about 9 feet long, broad through the shoulders. Sophia reacted immediately, kicking upward to create distance. The sudden burst of movement disturbed the water column, throwing off a trail of bubbles and flashing light from the surface above. That turbulence increased vibration and contrast. Sensory cues bull sharks rely on at close range. Instead of turning away, the shark adjusted its angle and accelerated, closing the distance in seconds. As Sophia turned to orient herself, she drifted off her planned line and lost sight of her surface marker buoy. Her breathing became rapid and uneven, her shoulders lifting sharply as she tried to regain control. The shark struck her lower body with force, snapping her sideways. Above her, the surface water erupted suddenly, the disturbance visible from the boat. Blood spread quickly, clouding the water and reducing visibility to almost nothing. Her legs kicked once, then lost coordination. Moments later, observers saw rapid movement and a violent surge of blood in the water as her body was pulled downward. Movement slowed rapidly. Within seconds, the surrounding water darkened and went still. When Sophia failed to resurface, the charter captain noticed blood spreading on the surface and immediately radioed a suspected shark attack. Rescue crews arrived within the hour but found no signs of life. Divers later recovered her body at approximately 125 feet, several hundred feet from where she entered the water. The coroner ruled her death the result of massive injuries from shark predation, with catastrophic blood loss causing near immediate loss of consciousness. Her camera was recovered days later and taken into evidence at her family's request. The footage was never released, and her channel remained online, ending without a final upload. Following her death, marine safety agencies updated seasonal warnings to more clearly discourage solo freediving during feeding periods. The footage was used privately for training and safety analysis, never for viewing. Sophia misjudged timing in a place where predators move fast, but cold environments fail differently, slowly, quietly, and with plenty of confidence right up until the surface gives way. It was February 6, 2014, on a quiet private lake outside Duluth, Minnesota. Hidden currents near the inlet had thinned the ice from below, leaving sections uneven and unstable despite the cold. The surface looked clear and solid, but the lake's strength had been quietly eroded beneath its frozen skin. Rachel Foster was 25 years old and worked as a real estate assistant during the week. On weekends and days off, she filmed winter endurance videos, ice fishing, cold exposure, and late-season lake conditions. Her channel wasn't large, but it was steady. A few thousand people followed her for practical, no-frills content, filmed on real lakes, not staged locations. She'd grown up ice fishing with her father on small Minnesota lakes and believed familiarity made winter water predictable. On the morning of February 6, 2014, Rachel drove to a private lake owned by family acquaintances about 15 miles outside Duluth. The area was quiet and mostly empty. She chose the location because limited access meant fewer people and uninterrupted filming. Forecasts had called for several days of above-freezing temperatures, but she had already tested the ice earlier in the week and felt confident enough to proceed. Before stepping onto the lake, Rachel set up her cameras, wearing a chest-mounted action camera and placing a second one on a small tripod near shore aimed at the ice. She checked her gear and conditions, noting the warmer weather but judging the surface stable enough to proceed. She carried an ice auger, ice picks, and an emergency rope, relying on experience and visual assessment rather than flotation equipment. Rachel entered the lake shortly after 11:15 a.m., moving slowly and drilling test holes every few yards as she left the shoreline. The first measurements showed about 6 inches of clear ice, a thickness commonly considered safe for foot travel. Each hole refroze cleanly, and the surface remained firm, dry, and free of visible cracks. As she progressed farther from shore, the lake grew quieter. The ice color began to shift, fading from clear blue to a darker gray. The change happened gradually, not sharply enough to force an immediate stop. This section lay closer to a narrow inlet where water moving beneath the surface prevented uniform freezing. From above, the ice still looked intact, but its strength had been eroding from below. Several faint cracking sounds followed her steps. Rachel paused, drilled another hole, and tapped the surface with her auger. The sound was noticeably duller than before, but the ice did not break. She took a few more steps forward. By then, the ice closer to the inlet had been weakened unevenly from below, even as surface conditions appeared unchanged. At approximately 11:38 a.m., the ice failed without warning. It split open beneath her feet, widening instantly as she dropped into 33 to 34 degrees Fahrenheit water. The surrounding ice fractured as she tried to climb out. Cold shock hit immediately, her breathing turning sharp and uncontrolled. Within a minute, her movements slowed, strength drained away, and the opening continued to spread until the surface finally went still. Emergency services were contacted immediately. Rescue teams arrived shortly after 12:20 p.m. and began a cold water search using safety lines and dive gear. Rachel's body was recovered about 50 minutes later in roughly 12 feet of water, less than 20 feet from where the ice broke. Her emergency rope is still clipped to her pack, unused. The medical examiner ruled the death accidental, caused by cold water immersion leading to rapid hypothermia and drowning. In near-freezing water, loss of useful movement can happen within minutes, followed by unconsciousness. After her death, Rachel's family helps fund winter safety equipment for rural property owners, focusing on ice thickness tools and flotation gear. Her footage is later used in local safety programs to show how familiar ice, warming temperatures, and moving water can turn deadly without clear warning, even when the camera is already rolling. Thanks for watching. If you like these stories, click here.